The stars had always called to humanity, but when the call was finally answered, it came from the stars themselves. Dr. Hyun-woo Park stood at the window of Earth's newest space station, watching the alien ship approach. The vessel was unlike anything humans had ever built. It moved without visible engines, its surface smooth like liquid metal. No flames shot from its back. No spinning parts could be seen. It simply glided through space, as if the laws of physics bent around it. "They're here," Admiral Bo-ra Kim said behind him. Her voice was calm, but Hyun-woo could hear the excitement underneath. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. First contact with an alien race. The ship docked with their station without a sound. When the airlock opened, the being that stepped through looked almost human, but not quite. It was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like pearl. Its eyes were larger than human eyes, and they seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "I am Velthar of the Nexari Empire," the alien said in perfect English. "I speak for the Galactic Council. We welcome humanity to the greater community of intelligent life." Hyun-woo felt his heart race. The Galactic Council. It sounded like something from the old science fiction movies he had watched as a child. But this was real. This was happening. Bo-ra stepped forward. As the highest-ranking military officer present, she would speak for Earth. "We are honored by your visit, Ambassador. Velthar, humanity has long wondered if we were alone in the universe." Velthar's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "You were never alone. The Council has watched your species for some time. We have waited for you to develop space travel capable of reaching other star systems. Now that you have achieved this milestone, we can offer you membership in our community." The negotiations took place over several days. Velthar explained that the Galactic Council was made up of 17 different alien species. They had worked together for thousands of years to keep peace in the galaxy. They shared technology, resources, and knowledge. "We have prepared a standard integration package for new species," Velthar said during one of their meetings. "This includes faster-than-light drives that are much better than your current engines. We also offer energy weapons for defense, medical, technology to cure diseases that still plague your people, and manufacturing systems that can create anything you need." Hyun-woo studied the technical specifications the alien had provided. The technology was certainly more advanced than anything on Earth. The FTL drives could move ships between star systems in days instead of years. The medical equipment could heal injuries and cure cancers that human doctors still struggled with. But something bothered him about it all. That night, he found himself in the station's lab with Tae-hyun Lee, a young physicist who had joined the delegation at the last minute. Tae-hyun was brilliant, maybe the smartest person Hyun-woo had ever met. The young man was staring at holographic displays showing the alien technology. "Something's wrong," Tae-hyun said without looking up. "What do you mean?" Hyun-woo asked. Tae-hyun pointed at the display. "Look at these energy readings. Look at the mathematical principles they're using. This technology isn't more advanced than ours. It's different, yes, but not better." Hyun-woo moved closer to study the data. "Explain." "Our quantum computers can process information faster than their systems. Our dimensional mathematics are more complex. Look here," Tae-hyun highlighted several equations. "They're using brute force solutions where we would use elegant mathematical shortcuts." "Maybe they just developed differently," Hyun-woo suggested. "Maybe," Tae-hyun said, but he didn't sound convinced. "But there's something else. I've been scanning their ship when they're not looking. The basic structure is advanced, yes, but their computers are primitive compared to what we have on Earth." The next day, Tae-hyun shared his concerns with Min-ah, Choi, the expedition's chief engineer. Min-ah was known for her practical approach to problems. She didn't trust anything until she could take it apart and see how it worked. "You want me to scan an alien ship?" she asked. Just the parts we can see, Tae-hyun said. I need to know if what I'm seeing is real. Min-ah was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll do it during the next meeting, but if we get caught, I'm blaming you. The scan results were shocking. Not only was the alien ship less advanced than Tae-hyun had suspected, but it was using technology that seemed deliberately limited. Systems that could obviously be more efficient were running at reduced capacity. Computers that could process faster were artificially slowed down. It's like they're holding themselves back, Min-ah said as they studied the data. Or someone is holding them back, Tae-hyun replied. That evening, they brought their findings to Hyunwoo and Bo-ra. The two leaders listened carefully as the scientists explained what they had discovered. You're suggesting that this Galactic Council is deliberately keeping technology at a lower level? Bo-ra asked. Not just suggesting, Tae-hyun said. The evidence is clear. Every system on their ship could be improved with simple modifications. But those modifications have been specifically prevented. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. What if the integration package they're offering us isn't a gift? What if it's a trap? Bo-ra was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. If that's true, then joining the Galactic Council would mean giving up our technological development. We would be stuck at their level forever. We need more information, Hyunwoo said. Can you get access to their databases? Tae-hyun and Min-ah exchanged glances. It would be risky, Min-ah said. If they catch us, it could mean war. If we don't do it, and you're right about this, it could mean the end of human progress, Bo-ra replied. The plan was simple, but dangerous. During the final negotiation session, while Velthar was focused on the political agreements, Tae-hyun would attempt to access the alien ship's computer systems. He had developed a way to connect their quantum computers to almost any system, as long as he could get physically close to it. The final meeting was held in the alien ship's main conference room. Velthar presented the formal membership offer to the Galactic Council. The benefits were impressive: protection from hostile species, access to thousands of habitable worlds, and immediate technological upgrades for all of humanity. All we ask, in return, Velthar said, is that you accept our guidance in technological development. The Council has learned that unrestricted scientific progress can be dangerous. We have protocols in place to ensure that all species develop safely. While the alien spoke, Tae-hyun quietly activated his scanning device. His quantum computer began connecting to the ship's systems, copying whatever information it could access. What he found made his blood run cold. The ship's databases contained detailed files on dozens of species. Each file showed the same pattern: advanced civilizations that had been contacted by the Council and given the same integration package that was being offered to humanity. In every case, the species' technological development had stopped completely after joining the Council. But that wasn't the worst part. The files also contained references to something called the Suppression Network, a galaxy-wide system designed to prevent certain types of scientific discoveries. The Council wasn't just limiting technology through politics. They were somehow making it impossible for member species to develop beyond a certain point. Tae-hyun's computer finished copying the accessible files just as Velthar concluded his presentation. The alien turned to Bo-ra and Hyunwoo, waiting for their response. This is a generous offer, Bo-ra said carefully. We will need time to discuss it with our government. Of course, Velthar replied. Take all the time you need. The Council has waited this long to welcome humanity. We can wait a little longer. After the aliens left, the human delegation gathered in the station's secure meeting room. Tae-hyun shared what he had discovered. The evidence was overwhelming. The Galactic Council wasn't offering membership. They were offering slavery disguised as friendship. What do we do? Min-ah asked. Bo-ra looked out at the stars through the meeting room window. We prepare to leave. Leave? Hyunwoo asked. Leave where? Earth, Bora said quietly. All of it, everyone. If staying means becoming prisoners, then we have to find another way. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. They were talking about abandoning humanity's home world. It seemed impossible. But as Hyun-woo looked at the evidence Taehyun had gathered, he realized it might be their only choice. The Council had deceived them, but they had also underestimated humanity's ability to see through the deception. Now, the question was whether humans could do something that no other species in galactic history had ever managed, escape the Council's trap before it closed around them. 3 years had passed since the first contact with the Galactic Council, and Earth looked the same from space. Cities still glowed at night, ships still moved between the planets, factories still produced goods. But underneath the normal appearance, the biggest secret in human history was taking shape. Ji-hoon Kang stood in the underground command center built beneath Geneva. As Earth's newly elected world president, he carried the weight of an impossible decision. Every day, he authorized the movement of resources, people, and technology toward a goal that would have seemed like madness just a few years ago. Status. Report, he said to the woman beside him. Soo Jin-yoon looked tired, but her eyes were bright with determination. As head of the New Horizon project, she had spent the last 3 years planning something no civilization had ever attempted: the complete evacuation of an entire planet. Construction Base 7 just finished their 15th generation ship, she reported. Won-ho Shin's team has really outdone themselves. These new ships can support 2 million people each, and they're completely self-sufficient. Ji-hoon nodded, but his expression remained serious. How many do we still need? For the entire population of Earth? About 40 more ships. We're moving faster than our original timeline, but it's still going to be close. Outside this secret facility. Most of humanity had no idea what was happening. The government had told people that Earth was expanding into space, building new colonies and research stations. This wasn't entirely false. Humans were indeed spreading to nearby star systems. They just weren't planning to come back. Won-ho Shin was proud of his work, but he had never built anything like these generation ships before. Each one was essentially a small world contained within a metal shell. They had forests, lakes, cities, and everything needed to support human life for hundreds of years. The biodomes are working perfectly, he told his assistant as they walked through the ship's central park. Trees reached toward artificial sunlight, and a small river flowed through carefully maintained gardens. People won't just survive on these ships, they'll live full lives. The most difficult part wasn't building the ships, it was keeping the secret. Yoon Young-han, Earth's top diplomat, spent her days meeting with Galactic Council representatives, pretending that humanity was happily considering their membership offer. Ambassador Velthar is becoming suspicious, she reported during one of the weekly secret meetings. He's asking why our decision is taking so long. Tell him we're a democratic species, Ji-hoon replied. We need time to let all our people vote on such an important decision. Jae-min. Oh coordinated the actual movement of people. As the resistance leader in charge of evacuation logistics, he had developed a system that could move millions of humans without anyone noticing they were gone. We start with volunteers from remote areas, he explained to his team. Mining stations, research bases, exploration crews, people whose disappearance won't be immediately noticed. What about families? Asked one of his coordinators. They go together, but at different times, Jae-min said. A family might split up for a few weeks, but they reunite on the generation ships. No one gets left behind. The process was carefully planned. First, volunteers would sign up for what appeared to be normal space missions, mining operations, scientific expeditions, or colonial surveys. They would say goodbye to friends and family, promising to return in a few years. Then they would board ships that took them not to nearby planets, but to the secret assembly points where the generation ships waited. Ye-Jin Song was the strategist who made it all look normal. She understood that the Council was watching Earth, looking for signs of unusual activity, so she made sure that every evacuation looked like routine space expansion. The beauty of this plan is that we're not lying, she explained to the other leaders. We really are establishing mining operations and research colonies. We're just not planning to leave anyone behind to run them. But the most important part of the plan was happening in secret. Dongwoo Lim, working with a small team of quantum physicists, was preparing Earth for what would happen after everyone left. The dimensional anchors are almost ready, he reported. Once activated, they'll turn Earth into a testing ground for our real weapon against the Council. The anchors were devices that could manipulate the fundamental structure of space and time around a planet. They were based on technology stolen from the Galactic Council, but improved by human innovation. When activated, they would make Earth the center of an experiment that could change the galaxy forever. As the months passed, the evacuation accelerated. Entire cities began to empty as their populations quietly moved to temporary housing while waiting for transport to their new assignments in space. The government explained this as part of a massive modernization project. Old cities were being rebuilt, and people needed to move out while construction happened. Most people believed the explanations because they wanted to believe them. The idea that humanity was abandoning Earth was too big and too frightening for most minds to accept, but some people suspected the truth. Dr. Hyun-Woo Park, the scientist who had first discovered the Council's deception, spent his time traveling between the secret facilities, making sure everything was proceeding according to plan. The Council still has no idea what we're doing, he reported to Ji-hoon during one visit. Their surveillance shows normal human expansion into nearby systems. As far as they know, we're behaving exactly like every other species they've integrated. How long before they realize the truth? Ji-hoon asked. Hard to say. Maybe years, maybe decades. The Council moves slowly. They've been doing this for so long that they don't expect surprises. But there were signs that some Council members were becoming curious. Velthar had begun asking more detailed questions about human population movements. Other alien species were requesting meetings with Earth's leaders. The attention was making everyone nervous. We need to speed up the timeline, Su-Jin said during an emergency meeting. Won-Ho's team can build ships faster if we give them more resources. Do it, Ji-hoon agreed. Whatever it takes. The generation ships were marvels of human engineering, but they were also something more. Each ship contained libraries with all of human knowledge, genetic banks with samples from every Earth species, and manufacturing facilities that could build anything humans might need. More importantly, each ship was equipped with the advanced technology that humanity had developed in secret. While the Council thought humans were using their integration package, the real human fleet was powered by quantum drives that made Council ships look primitive. These ships don't just travel faster than light, Won-Ho explained to a group of the first evacuees. They can phase between dimensions, making them almost impossible to track or attack. As the final phase of the evacuation began, Jae-min-oh faced his biggest challenge yet, moving the populations of major cities without causing panic. We're calling it the Great Modernization, he explained to city leaders who were secretly part of the resistance. Every major city on Earth is getting completely rebuilt with new technology. People need to move to temporary housing in orbit, while the work is done. The plan worked because it sounded reasonable. Humanity had just made contact with advanced aliens. Of course, Earth's cities would need to be upgraded to galactic standards. Of course, people would need to move temporarily while the work was done. What the evacuees didn't know was that the temporary housing was actually the generation ships, and they wouldn't be coming back. By the end of the 4th year, 3/4 of humanity had left Earth. The planet's cities were mostly empty, maintained by automated systems and a small number of volunteers who would be the last to leave. Yoon Young-han continued her diplomatic dance with the Council, but it was getting harder to explain why humanity's decision was taking so long. My people are naturally cautious, she told Velthar during one of their meetings. Such a big decision requires careful thought. Of course, the alien replied, but his large eyes showed suspicion. Perhaps the council could visit Earth directly. To answer any questions your people might have? Yun-Young felt her heart skip a beat. A council visit to Earth would reveal the evacuation immediately. That's very generous, but our culture values independence. We prefer to make this decision without outside pressure. It was a dangerous game, and everyone knew it couldn't last much longer. Finally, the day came when Dongwu Lim activated the last dimensional anchor. Earth was now surrounded by invisible devices that could reshape reality itself around the planet. The anchors are online, he reported. Earth is ready. Ji-Hoon Kang stood in the command center one last time, looking at the displays showing the nearly empty planet below. In a few hours, he would board the final transport and leave the world where humanity had been born. Any regrets? Su Jin asked him. He thought about it for a moment. Yes, but not about leaving. About having to leave in secret. Humanity deserves better than to sneak away in the night. Maybe someday we can come back, she said. Maybe, he agreed. But when we do, it will be on our terms. The last transport left Earth carrying the final group of humans. The star system had no name on any Galactic Council map. Located 50 light-years from Earth, it contained a yellow sun and 7 planets. But according to official records, it was empty and worthless. The Council's surveys had marked it as having no valuable resources and no suitable worlds for life. The Council was wrong. Sung-Ho Park stood on the observation deck of Orbital Platform Alpha, watching something that should have been impossible. Below him, where there had been nothing but empty space 2 years ago, a planet was taking shape. New Terra wasn't built in the traditional way. Instead of finding a suitable world and changing it to meet human needs, humanity had decided to create their own world from scratch. Using technology far beyond what the Galactic Council possessed, they were literally constructing a planet. Gravity generators are at 95%, reported Hai-Wan Kim from the bioengineering station. We're ready to begin atmosphere seeding. Sung-Ho nodded, still amazed by what they had accomplished. The planet below wasn't just a ball of rock with air around it. It was a carefully designed ecosystem that could adapt and change based on human needs. Begin the process, he said. Across the system, massive ships released clouds of specially designed organisms into New Terra's atmosphere. These weren't normal plants and animals. They were artificial life forms created by Hai-Wan's team, capable of surviving in any environment and quickly adapting to create the perfect conditions for human life. Temperature is stabilizing, Hai-Wan reported. Oxygen levels are rising. Faster than predicted, we'll have breathable air in 6 months instead of 2 years. The speed of progress was incredible, but it was only possible because humanity was no longer limited by the Galactic Council's restrictions. Insu Jian and Eugene Lee had spent the last 3 years studying the technology stolen from the Council, learning not just how it worked, but how it had been deliberately limited. Look at this, Insu said, showing Eugene a holographic display of a Council energy weapon. They've built inefficiency into every system. This weapon could generate 10 times more power with simple modifications. Why would they do that? Eugene asked. Control, Insu replied. If every species uses the same limited technology, no one can become powerful enough to challenge the Council. But humanity wasn't using Council technology anymore. Working together, Insu and Eugene had developed weapons and defenses that operated on completely different principles. Their ships could phase between dimensions, making them nearly impossible to hit. Their weapons could manipulate fundamental forces in ways the Council had never imagined. We're not just building better technology, Eugene explained to the other scientists. We're building technology that the Council can't understand or counter. While the engineers worked on new Terra, other teams were exploring beyond their hidden system. Kyung-min Cho had been making contact with species throughout the galaxy, looking for others who had discovered the truth about the Council. "The Vorthak are definitely interested," he reported during a secure communication with the leadership. "Their scientists have been asking the same questions we asked. They know something is wrong with the integration package." So Young Nam, humanity's new diplomatic specialist, had been working with Kyung-min to carefully approach these potential allies. The work was dangerous because the Council monitored all communications between species. "We can't just tell them the truth," So Young explained. "If the Council discovers what we're doing, they'll move against us before we're ready." Instead, they used subtle methods. Human traders would visit Vorthak worlds and accidentally leave behind scientific equipment that was slightly more advanced than it should be. Vorthak scientists would study the equipment and begin to realize that better technology was possible. "It's working," Kyung-min reported. "The Vorthak have started developing improvements to their FTL drives, small changes, but enough to show they're thinking beyond Council limitations." The same approach was being used with the Quillen and the Methani. Each species was being given small hints that their technology could be better, encouraging them to push beyond the artificial boundaries the Council had imposed. But the most important work was being done by Wu Jin-bei and his team of theoretical physicists. They had been studying the fundamental nature of the Council's control system, trying to understand how 17 species could suppress the development of hundreds of others. "I think I've figured it out," Wu Jin announced during a meeting of the senior scientists. "The Council isn't just limiting technology through politics. They're actually manipulating the laws of physics themselves." The room fell silent. Jinna, Ryu, Wu Jin's closest collaborator, spoke first. "Explain." Wu Jin activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. "Look at this pattern. Every species that joins the Council experiences the same thing. Their scientists stop making certain types of discoveries, not because they're stupid, but because those discoveries become impossible to make." He highlighted different regions of the galaxy in different colors. "The Council has created what I'm calling reality stress points. These are areas where the normal laws of physics are artificially constrained. In these areas, certain types of technology simply can't work." "Like what?" asked Sung Ho. "Dimensional manipulation, advanced energy generation, quantum computing beyond a certain level. The Council has made it so these technologies can't be discovered or developed in most of the galaxy." Jinna studied the display carefully. "But we developed these technologies. How is that possible?" "Because Earth was outside their network," Wu Jin replied. "We developed FTL travel before they could establish their reality constraints around our solar system. Once we had FTL, we could leave their influence zone and develop freely. The implications were staggering. The Council wasn't just politically controlling other species. They were editing reality itself to prevent technological advancement." "Can we reverse it?" Sung Ho asked. Wu Jin and Jinna exchanged glances. "Maybe," Jinna said, "but it would be dangerous. The reality stress points are connected across the entire galaxy. If we destabilize them, the effects could be unpredictable." "What kind of effects?" So Young asked. "Best case scenario. Every species in the galaxy suddenly regains the ability to develop advanced technology," Wu Jin said. "Worst case scenario, the fundamental laws of physics become unstable and civilization collapses. It was a risk that would require careful consideration, but first they needed to understand the Council's system better." Teams of human scientists began placing monitoring devices throughout the galaxy, disguised as normal space debris or hidden inside asteroids. The devices, developed by Yeon-Soo Lee, were designed to measure the reality stress points and map the Council's suppression network, but placing them required getting close to Council-controlled systems without being detected. "We're using the dimensional phase technology," explained Chan Woo Kim, who led the placement missions. Our ships can exist partially outside normal space-time, making them invisible to Council sensors. The missions were successful, but they revealed something disturbing. The Council's reality manipulation network was vast and complex, affecting nearly every inhabited system in the galaxy. "They've been doing this for at least 50,000 years, reported Yeon-su after analyzing the data. Maybe longer. The network is so established that removing it could cause massive disruption. But they also discovered weaknesses. Mi-Kyung-shin, analyzing the network structure, found that certain key points were critical to maintaining the system. "If we could place devices at these locations," she said, pointing to several stars on the galactic map, "we could potentially disrupt large sections of the network." "How large?" asked Chan-woo. "Maybe a quarter of the galaxy," Mi-Kyung replied. "But it would also alert the Council to what we're doing." The team realized they needed a different approach. Instead of attacking the network directly, they could create devices that would counteract its effects in specific areas. These reality restoration beacons would allow species to develop normally while keeping the overall network intact. Yeon-su's team began developing the beacons, while Chan-woo's people prepared for the dangerous mission of placing them near Council worlds. The first test came when they activated a beacon in Vorthak space. The effects were immediate and dramatic. The Vorthak Science Station just achieved a breakthrough in FTL technology, reported Kyung-min excitedly. Their new drives are faster than anything the Council has ever built. "How are they reacting?" asked So-young. "They're confused, but excited. They don't understand why the breakthrough was suddenly possible, but they're not questioning it." The success with the Vorthak proved that the beacons worked, but it also created new challenges. If too many species suddenly developed advanced technology, the Council would realize something was wrong. "We need to be careful about timing," So-young warned. "If multiple species start making breakthroughs simultaneously, it will look suspicious." Byung-ho Han, who had been analyzing the Council's behavior patterns, had an idea. "What if we made it look like natural development? Species sometimes make breakthrough discoveries independently. If we space out the beacon activations and make them look random, the Council might not notice the pattern." The plan required patience and careful coordination. Seung-won Koo had spent 6 months living on a mining station in the outer rim of Nexari space, pretending to be a simple asteroid prospector. In reality, he was gathering intelligence on the most powerful species in the Galactic Council. What he discovered made him understand just how deep the conspiracy really went. "The suppression network isn't just about technology," he explained to the assembled leaders via secure quantum communication. "It's about reality itself. The Council has been editing the fundamental laws of physics for so long that most species have forgotten what's possible." Working alongside him, Hyo-jin Park had been using specialized equipment to study what she called quantum archaeology, examining the traces of suppressed scientific discoveries in the quantum field around Council worlds. "Every time a species tries to develop advanced technology, the suppression field records the attempt," she reported. "I found evidence of thousands of breakthrough discoveries that were prevented from happening. Entire fields of science that were erased before they could develop." The data was overwhelming. Species across the galaxy had independently discovered dimensional manipulation, advanced energy sources, and quantum computing, only to have these discoveries mysteriously fail or become impossible to replicate. "It's not just that the Council prevents other species from advancing," Seung-won continued. "They've convinced everyone that their level of technology is the natural limit. Most species have stopped trying to innovate. But humanity's reality restoration beacons were changing that. Chan-woo Kim had successfully placed devices in 17 different systems, and the results were becoming harder for the Council to ignore. The Quillen just developed a new manufacturing process that's 10 times more efficient than anything they've had before, reported Yeon-su Lee from her monitoring station. Their industrial output has increased dramatically in just 3 months. "What about the Council's reaction?" asked Seung-won. So far, they're treating each breakthrough as an isolated incident, Yeon-su replied. But that won't last much longer. They're starting to ask questions. The questions came sooner than expected. Mi Kyung-shin and her team had been placing a beacon in the heavily guarded Nexari core system when their ship was detected and attacked. Most of the team escaped, but Mi Kyung was captured. She's being held on the primary Nexari command station, reported Chan-woo, his voice tight with worry. Our contacts in the system say she's being interrogated by Council security forces. Everyone knew what this meant. If Mi Kyung broke under interrogation, the entire resistance would be exposed. But they also knew Mi Kyung. She was tough, and she wouldn't give up easily. How long can she hold out? Asked Sung-ho. Unknown, Chan-woo replied. But we have to assume the Council will eventually learn everything she knows. This created a crisis for the resistance leadership. They could try to rescue Mi Kyung, but that would certainly expose their capabilities to the Council, or they could accelerate their plans and trigger the cascade failure before Mi Kyung was forced to reveal critical information. We're not ready, protested Byung-ho Han. We've only placed beacons in 30 systems. We plan to have at least 50 before attempting the cascade. Plans change, said Sun Hee-oh grimly. If the Council discovers what we're doing, they'll move to protect their network. This might be our only chance. The debate continued for hours, but eventually they reached a decision. The cascade would be triggered, but first they needed to warn their allies and prepare for the Council's response. Kyungmin Cho sent coded messages to contacts in the Vorthak, Quilin, and Mathani governments. The messages were disguised as routine trade negotiations, but they contained warnings about upcoming market instabilities that would require rapid adaptation. The Vorthak leadership understands, Kyungmin reported. They're quietly moving their most important research facilities to secure locations. Meanwhile, Yoo-jin Lee and In-soo Jeon were finalizing preparations for humanity's military response. They knew the Council would not accept the collapse of their control system peacefully. Our ships are ready, Yoo-jin reported. We have 40 vessels equipped with dimensional phase technology and quantum weapons. The Council won't be able to detect or counter them using their standard systems. What about their hidden technology? Asked In-soo. We know they have capabilities beyond what they've shared with other species. We've prepared for that too, Yoo-jin replied. Our weapons operate on principles the Council has spent 50,000 years suppressing. Even their advanced systems won't be ready for what we can do. But the most crucial preparation was happening on Earth. Dongwoo Lim and his team had spent years preparing the abandoned planet for its role in humanity's plan. The dimensional anchors placed around Earth weren't just weapons. They were the key to triggering the cascade failure. The anchors are synchronized with the reality restoration beacons throughout the galaxy, Dongwoo explained. When we activate them, they'll create a resonance wave that will destabilize the entire suppression network. And then what happens? Asked Ji-hoon Kang. Then 50,000 years of suppressed scientific progress hits the galaxy all at once, Dongwoo replied. Every species will suddenly regain the ability to develop technology freely. It will be chaos, but it will also be liberation. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Council's suppression network depended on maintaining stable reality constraints across the galaxy. By creating instabilities at key points, humanity could cause the entire system to collapse like a house of cards. But there was a problem none of them had anticipated. 3 days before the cascade was scheduled to begin, Sung-won received an urgent message from his contacts in Nexari space. Mi Kyung-shin had escaped from Council custody, but she wasn't alone. She's brought someone with her, Sung-won reported. A Nexari scientist named Kethmore who helped her escape. He says he has critical information about the suppression network. The Nexari scientist was transported to New Terra under heavy security. When he met with the human leadership, his first words changed everything they thought they knew about the Council. The suppression network isn't stable, Kethmore said through a translation device. My species has been maintaining it for millennia. but it's breaking down. The reality constraints are becoming harder to maintain every year. "Why are you telling us this?" asked Sun He suspiciously. "Because my people are dying," Kethmore replied. "The effort to maintain the network is consuming enormous amounts of energy and resources. Nexari scientists estimate that our civilization will collapse within a century if we continue." This revelation forced humanity to reconsider their entire strategy. The Council wasn't just oppressing other species, they were trapped by their own system. "Some members of the Nexari government want to abandon the suppression network," Kethmore continued. "But the other Council species won't allow it. They're afraid of what will happen if suppressed species suddenly develop advanced technology." "What do they think will happen?" asked Hyojin. "War," Kethmore said simply. "The Council believes that if every species in the galaxy suddenly becomes technologically advanced, there will be conflicts that could destroy civilization. So they're maintaining a system that's killing them to prevent a war that might not even happen," observed Xiongwan. "Exactly," Kethmore agreed. "But there are those among my people who believe the risk is worth taking. We're willing to help you collapse the network, but we need assurance that humanity won't use their advanced technology to conquer other species." This created a new diplomatic challenge for So Young Nam. She had to convince a Nexari scientist that humanity could be trusted with galaxy-changing power. "We don't want to rule the galaxy," she told Kethmore. "We just want the freedom to develop our own civilization without artificial constraints." "And what about other species?" Kethmore asked. "Will you help them adapt to the new reality, or will you leave them to struggle on their own?" So Young considered the question carefully. "We'll help anyone who wants to be helped, but we won't force our assistance on anyone." Kethmore's information revealed that the cascade failure would be even more dramatic than humanity had predicted. The suppression network was already unstable, and triggering the cascade would cause changes throughout the galaxy almost immediately. Species will experience technological breakthroughs within days, not years, Kethmore explained. The effect will be so obvious that the Council will have to respond quickly. "What kind of response?" asked Eugene. "Military action," Kethmore said grimly. "The Hardline Council members will try to reimpose the suppression network by force. They have weapons and ships that most species have never seen. This meant humanity needed to accelerate their military preparations. Wonho Shin's shipyards began working around the clock to produce more vessels equipped with humanity's advanced technology. We'll need at least 100 ships to protect all the species that will be affected by the cascade," estimated Insu John. "But we only have time to build 60. Then we'll have to make those 60 count," replied Eugene grimly. As the final preparations were made, everyone understood that they were about to change galactic history forever. The cascade failure would free every species from the Council's technological suppression, but it would also trigger the largest conflict the galaxy had seen in. The interrogation room on the Nexari command station was cold and sterile. Dong-Hyun Yu sat across from 3 Council representatives, his hands bound but his eyes defiant. He had been captured while placing a reality restoration beacon near a major Council facility, and now they wanted answers. "Tell us about these devices," demanded the lead interrogator, a Nexari official with silver skin and cold eyes. "What is their purpose?" Dong-Hyun had been trained for this moment. He knew exactly how much information to reveal to serve humanity's purposes. "They're scientific instruments," he said calmly. "We're studying quantum field fluctuations." "Quantum field fluctuations?" The interrogator's voice was skeptical. "These devices are clearly designed to interfere with our monitoring systems." "Your monitoring systems must be more sensitive than we realized," Dong-Hyun replied. "We had no idea they would be affected by basic scientific equipment." It was a careful game. Dong-Hyun needed to reveal just enough to make the Council take action, but not enough to give away humanity's real capabilities. After 6 hours of questioning, he finally gave them what they were looking for: The devices are part of a research project studying technological limitations, he admitted. We've noticed that certain scientific advances seem impossible in some regions of space. We're trying to understand why. The council representatives exchanged glances. This was exactly what they had feared, a species that had noticed the A suppression network. Within hours of Dong-hyun's partial confession, council fleets throughout the galaxy received emergency orders. All human settlements were to be located and destroyed immediately. The species that had discovered their secret could not be allowed to survive. Admiral Kethvar of the Nexari Imperial Fleet commanded the largest force ever assembled by the Council. 200 ships equipped with the most advanced weapons the Council possessed moved toward the coordinates of humanity's known settlements. But when they arrived at the first target system, they found something unexpected. The settlements are defended, reported Kethvar's tactical officer. Unknown ship types are positioned around the human colonies. Jun-Sik Lee watched the Council fleet approach on his command ship's main display. As commander of humanity's defensive forces, he had been preparing for this moment for months. All ships, maintain formation, he ordered. Remember, they can't see us clearly. Use that advantage. The human ships were equipped with dimensional phase technology that made them appear as ghostly outlines on Council sensors. To Kethvar's fleet, it looked like they were facing phantom vessels that flickered in and out of existence. Open fire, Kethvar commanded. The Council ships launched their weapons, energy beams and particle cannons that should have destroyed the human vessels instantly. Instead, the weapons passed harmlessly through their targets as if the human ships weren't entirely there. Weapons have no effect, reported the tactical officer, confusion evident in his voice. The target ships appear to be phasing between dimensions. Airi Kim, commanding the human response from her flagship, smiled grimly. Return fire, she ordered. The human weapons were unlike anything the Council had seen before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they fired bursts of quantum distortion that warped space-time around their targets. Council ships found their hulls twisting and their systems failing as the fundamental laws of physics became unstable around them. "What kind of weapons are these?" demanded Kethvar as his flagship's shields began failing. "Unknown technology," his science officer replied. "Our shields aren't designed to protect against space-time distortion." The battle was over quickly. Half of Kethvar's fleet was disabled, and the rest retreated in confusion. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as Council forces encountered human technology that operated on principles they had spent 50,000 years suppressing. But the real shock came when Taemin Park's assault force reached the Council's primary suppression facility. Located in a heavily fortified system at the galaxy's center, the facility housed the main controls for the reality manipulation network. "Beginning our attack run," Taemin reported as his ships approached the massive station. The Council had prepared defenses that should have stopped any attack, shields that could deflect star-sized explosions, weapons that could destroy planets, and reality anchors that prevented dimensional manipulation within the system. None of it worked against humanity's approach. "We're not attacking the station directly," Taemin explained to his crew. "We're attacking the space around it." The human weapons targeted the dimensional barriers that protected the facility. As these barriers collapsed, the station found itself partially shifted into parallel dimensions where the Council's technology couldn't function properly. "Suppression network control is failing," reported the facility's commander in panic. "We're losing contact with monitoring stations throughout the galaxy." Hee Jin Nam, monitoring galactic communications from her post on New Terra, watched as the cascade failure began. "It's starting," she announced. "Reality restoration beacons are activating automatically as the suppression network fails." The effects were immediate and dramatic. On worlds throughout the galaxy, scientists who had struggled with impossible problems for centuries suddenly found solutions appearing in their minds. Technologies that had failed for millennia began working perfectly. Changwoo Song, analyzing the cascade from humanity's command center, watched in amazement as the readings changed. "The effect is spreading faster than we predicted," he reported. The entire galactic arm is being affected simultaneously. On Vorthak worlds, engineers discovered that their FTL drives could be modified to travel between parallel dimensions. Quillen scientists developed manufacturing techniques that could create materials at the atomic level. Mathani researchers built computers that operated using quantum consciousness itself. But the most shocking development came from an unexpected source. Ye Yun Cho, monitoring the cascade effects, noticed anomalous readings from several regions of space. "There's something wrong," she announced. "The reality restoration isn't just affecting known species, it's triggering responses from areas we thought were empty space." Kyung-Hwan Bai investigated the anomalous readings and made a discovery that changed everything. "There are artificial structures throughout the galaxy," he reported in amazement. "Massive constructs hidden in parallel dimensions. The cascade failure is making them visible. As the suppression network collapsed, hidden civilizations began, appearing throughout the galaxy. Species that had been forced into parallel dimensions by the Council's reality manipulation were suddenly returning to normal space." "How many?" asked Sun He. "Oh, hundreds," Kyung-Hwan replied. "Maybe thousands. The Council didn't just suppress technology. They hid entire civilizations that had developed beyond their control. These hidden species possessed technologies that made even humanity's advances seem primitive. They had spent millennia developing science and engineering in parallel dimensions where the Council's suppression network couldn't reach them." The revelation terrified the Council leadership. Emergency meetings were called as reports flooded in from throughout their territory. "The situation is out of control," reported the Nexari delegate. "Not only have we lost the ability to suppress technological development, but species we thought we had eliminated are returning." "How is this possible?" demanded the Zephyrian representative. "The suppression network was more complex than we realized," admitted the chief science advisor. "By constraining reality in normal space, we inadvertently created instabilities in parallel dimensions. The cascade failure has collapsed the barriers between dimensions." As the Council struggled to understand what was happening, the galaxy continued to transform. Species that had been limited to primitive technology for millennia were making breakthrough discoveries every day. But the cascade failure had unexpected consequences that no one had predicted. Sujin Park, studying the dimensional readings from Earth, made a disturbing discovery. "The cascade isn't just restoring suppressed technology," she reported. "It's destabilizing the fundamental structure of space-time itself." The reality anchors around Earth were registering massive fluctuations as the cascade spread. What had started as a controlled release of suppressed scientific potential was becoming something much larger and more dangerous. "The dimensional barriers between parallel universes are breaking down," Su Jin continued. "We may have triggered something irreversible." Across the galaxy, space itself began to behave strangely. Ships reported navigation systems failing as the laws of physics became inconsistent. Planets experienced gravity fluctuations as dimensional overlaps affected local space-time. "The cascade failure is spreading beyond our galaxy," reported Chang Wu in alarm. "Sensors are detecting similar effects in neighboring galactic clusters." Humanity had achieved their goal of freeing the galaxy from the Council's technological suppression, but they had also triggered something unprecedented in cosmic history. The fundamental nature of reality itself was changing, and no one knew where it would lead. "What have we done?" whispered Yeun, as she watched readings that showed dimensional barriers collapsing throughout the local galactic group. 2 years after the cascade failure, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Sujin Park stood in the command center of New Terra, watching holographic displays that showed a universe transformed beyond imagination. Where once there had been empty space, between stars now there were shimmering pathways of energy connecting distant worlds. "Dimensional tunnels are stable," reported her assistant. "Travel time between galaxies has been reduced from millions of years to mere days. The reality storm," that followed the Cascade failure had fundamentally changed how space and time worked. The artificial constraints that the Council had maintained for 50,000 years had created such deep instabilities that when they collapsed, they took the old laws of physics with them. Ho Young Kim, now leader of the Galactic Collaborative, coordinated relief efforts across hundreds of star systems. The organization had replaced the old council, but unlike their predecessors, they focused on helping species adapt to the new reality rather than controlling them. The Vorthak have successfully established colonies in 3 parallel dimensions, he reported during the weekly council meeting. The Quillen have developed manufacturing systems that can create matter from pure energy, and the Methani have built computers that think faster than the speed of light. But not all species had adapted well to the new galaxy. Many former council members, who had depended on their technological suppression systems for millennia, struggled to survive in a universe where the rules had completely changed. Yun Seo Lee led humanitarian missions to former council worlds, bringing food, medical supplies, and technical assistance to civilizations that were collapsing. The Nexari Empire has lost 60% of their inhabited worlds, she reported sadly. Their technology was so dependent on the suppression network that most of it simply stopped working when the cascade hit. Are they accepting our help? Asked Ho Young. Some are, Yun Seo replied, but many still see us as the cause of their problems. It was true that humanity had triggered the cascade failure, but they had also accepted responsibility for helping with the consequences. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to develop new technologies that functioned in the transformed galaxy. The most remarkable discovery came from Jae Hyun Shin, who had been exploring the dimensional pathways that appeared throughout space after the reality storm. These aren't just random openings, he explained to the collaborative leadership. They're doorways to parallel versions of our galaxy, places where history developed differently. Through these dimensional gateways, they had made contact with versions of galactic civilization where the Council had never existed. In some of these parallel galaxies, hundreds of species had developed advanced technology independently, creating incredibly diverse and complex civilizations. One of the parallel galaxies has species that exist as pure energy, Jae Hyun reported. Another has civilizations that live inside the cores of stars. The variety of life and technology is beyond anything we imagine possible. Bo Young Nam led the first expedition through a dimensional gateway to explore these parallel worlds. What her team found challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. The beings in Parallel Galaxy 7 don't just travel faster than light, she reported via quantum communication. They've learned to travel faster than time itself. They can move through history as easily as we move through space. These encounters led to an exchange of knowledge that accelerated galactic development at an incredible rate. Technologies that would have taken centuries to develop were shared freely between parallel dimensions. But the most profound change came from an unexpected source, Seok Jin, Oh, working with scientists from dozens of species and multiple parallel dimensions, established protocols to prevent any single group from controlling technological development again. The Never Again protocols are now active in over 200 galaxies, he announced. Any attempt to artificially suppress scientific advancement triggers automatic countermeasures. The protocols use the same dimensional manipulation technology that had caused the cascade failure, but in a controlled way. If any civilization tried to limit the technological development of others, reality itself would resist their efforts. We've essentially made oppression impossible, explained Seok Jin. The universe now actively promotes scientific freedom and technological diversity. This created a golden age of discovery that spread across multiple galaxies. Species that had been trapped at primitive technological levels for millennia suddenly found themselves developing capabilities that seemed like magic. But the most significant development came from an entirely unexpected direction. Rena Choi was born on New Terra after the Cascade failure. She was part of the first generation of humans to grow up in the transformed galaxy, and her mind worked differently than older humans. She could perceive dimensional overlaps and quantum possibilities that others couldn't see. "There's something in the spaces between dimensions," she told the gathered scientists during her first presentation to the collaborative. "A form of consciousness that exists across multiple realities simultaneously." At first, the older scientists were skeptical, but Rina's unique perceptions allowed her to detect patterns in the dimensional energy that others missed. "They're trying to communicate with us," she continued. "These beings have been watching our development, and they want to make contact." The contact came 3 months later, when Rina successfully established communication with what she called the multi-dimensional collective, beings that existed partially in every parallel universe simultaneously. "They've been waiting for us to develop enough to understand them," Rina explained after her first conversation with the entities. "They say that the cascade failure was necessary for our species to evolve to the next level of existence. The multi-dimensional collective offered to teach humanity and other species technologies that operated across infinite parallel universes. These technologies could manipulate not just space and time, but the fundamental nature of reality itself. They're offering us the ability to create new universes," Rina reported in amazement. "Not just planets or star systems, but entire realities with their own laws of physics." The offer came with a warning. Such power required wisdom and responsibility that few species possessed. The collective had seen other civilizations destroy themselves by using reality-altering technology carelessly. "They want us to prove that we can handle this level of capability," Rina explained. "If we can demonstrate that we use advanced technology to help rather than harm, they'll share their deepest secrets with us." This challenge became the focus of galactic civilization for the next several years. Species worked together to solve problems not just in their own galaxy, but in parallel dimensions where civilizations were struggling with challenges beyond their ability to handle. Human engineers helped build dimensional shelters for species whose home galaxies were collapsing. Vorthak scientists developed medical technologies that could cure diseases across multiple realities. Quillan philosophers established ethical frameworks for using reality-altering technology responsibly. The collaboration was unprecedented in cosmic history. Hundreds of species from dozens of parallel galaxies worked together toward common goals, sharing knowledge and resources freely. "We're not just rebuilding civilization," observed Ho Young during one of the collaborative meetings. "We're creating something entirely new. A meta-civilization that spans multiple realities." The test came when they encountered a parallel galaxy where a catastrophic war was destroying entire star systems. The conflict had been going on for millions of years, and the weapons being used were literally tearing holes in space-time. "We can stop the war," reported the assessment team. "But it would require using reality-altering technology on a massive scale." The decision was made collectively by representatives from every participating species. They would intervene, but carefully and with full consideration of the consequences. The operation took 6 months and required coordination across 17 parallel galaxies. Using techniques learned from the multidimensional collective, they literally rewrote the history of the war-torn galaxy, creating a timeline where the conflict had been resolved peacefully millions of years earlier. "It worked," reported the intervention team. "The war never happened. Billions of species that were destroyed now exist peacefully. But the most important result was the response from the multidimensional collective. You have passed the test," they told Rina during their next communication. "You have shown that you can use ultimate power with wisdom and compassion." The knowledge that followed transformed not just the galaxy, but the entire local universe. The collective taught them how to create stable pocket universes, how to travel instantly between any points in the multiverse, and how to exist simultaneously across infinite realities. "We're not just a spacefaring civilization anymore," Rina explained to her fellow humans. "We're a reality-spanning species. The transformation was complete. Humanity, which had started as a single species on one world, had become something far greater. They existed across multiple galaxies, multiple timelines, and multiple realities, but they never forgot their origins or their responsibility to help others.